Good morning. This is another version of Team Alpha coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia. And today we have Lara Van Pletzen, who has been with ROI Business Brokers for 18 months. She helps people buy or sell businesses, business valuations, and business family transfers. She has a Georgia real estate license to handle commercial real estate if necessary. Her background is in private banking, financial advisor and an analyst, corporate training with an MBA degree, and a degree in psychology. Lara was born in Zimbabwe and has lived and worked in South Africa, Canada, and Australia, and she briefly lived in New Zealand. On Friday, August 26th, Lara will attend her citizenship ceremony to become a USA citizen. She has lived in the USA for 12 years, 7 years in Metro Atlanta, and 5 in Appleton, Wisconsin, which gives her the affiliation of being a Green Bay Packers supporter. So without further ado, Lara Van Pletzen.
Thank you, Gabe. This morning I just thought I'd talk a little bit about some tips for buyers and sellers. On this first screen you'll see is just my background, which you've already kindly introduced. So I'm going to move on to the next screen, and some of this has already been covered. So sorry. Just to go over the services and value that we offer, we represent sellers and buyers. We also help with families that want to transfer business over to family members, and business valuations. Sometimes people are not ready to buy or sell, but they need to know what their business is worth for, maybe they're going into partnerships or adding a partner in, things like that. And the key value of a business broker, a lot of people think they can, buy or sell themselves. It's just there's a lot of relationships that need to be managed. And you can kind of think of the business broker as the quarterback that manages the key relationships and communications between the seller, buyer, the lenders, the CPA, the attorney. In cases of lease where there's a landlord involved, or, if the building is owned, there's a commercial realtor. So there's a lot that goes into, helping close. Even if somebody wants to buy and sell, it's not that easy to get it to closing without having some professional advice and guidance. Where we're a little bit different, we know we've got Peter Gibson in real estate, so he can probably identify with this. When he sells a house, he can put it online, he takes pictures, and that helps sell it. With a business broker, we have to sell something we can't talk about. So if somebody's wanting to sell their business, they don't want their staff to know, and they don't want their clients to know until the deal's actually closed. So that's one of the, the challenges we have. But, we do work with an incredibly high level of discretion. We make sure when we talk to people that we have non-disclosure signed to keep the business confidential. So this morning I thought I'd just go over a few tips for sellers and buyers. Generally for sellers, by the time someone comes to us to sell their business, they want to sell it as in yesterday, and they've left it a little late. When you even go into business, you should already have your exit strategy in place. It just makes it so much easier when you're finally ready to transition. Know the value of your business. It's something you can do intermittently. I have people come to me, I want to sell their business, I want $1 million for it. And I do the valuation and it's like $200,000. If they had known that, years before they were ready to sell, that would have helped them, and they would have known what they could do to get it up to the $1 million that they would like when they sell. Talking to a business broker about 2 to 3 years before you plan on selling. And the nation average is it takes about 9 months to sell a business from the time it's listed. Obviously, it can go quicker, it can be less, but the average is 9 months. And then just a couple of tips for buyers. I meet a lot of people, and there's a lot of people looking at franchises. I personally stay away from those. And I just think it's a much better option to buy an established business. It's a turnkey business. The day you start business, you have a location, you have clients, staff, structure, websites, phones, inventory, equipment, a business model, and many times the owner will stay on for a period of time to help transition their relationships and train the new owner so that they're ready to just keep running with it. The minimum you'll need to put down on a business is 10 to 20%. We do SBA lending. 20%, sometimes the seller will carry some seller financing and you can bring it down to 10. Another thing, if a buyer does try to go this alone, make sure that the seller signs a non-compete, that they don't sell their business and then open up one down the road from you. And then the last one, and I just had some dealings with this last week where it gets very tricky, is you need to make sure that you know who's representing you. And I say try and avoid dual agency agreements. They are legal, but it's very difficult for someone who's on the side of the seller and the buyer in the same transaction. It's better to have one person who's representing the seller and a different person who's representing the buyer. And that way there's no conflict of interest and it keeps the deal, really clean. And that's one question up front, is make sure, if I've got someone selling a business, I'm friendly, then the buyer can easily think, I'm also looking out for them because I am helping them buy a business. But they need to understand my first loyalty and whatever I do is going to be in the seller interest. So just always clarify, who's representing who in any sort of business transaction. And so that's just a couple of tips I thought I'd go over. I hope it's not too much to take in. I'm Lara from ROI Business Brokers.
Okay. Can you stop sharing your screen so we can go ahead and ask you some questions?
Absolutely. Okay.
That's great. Well, thank you, Laura. Does anybody have any questions for Laura?
No, I just wish I had known Laura years ago when I owned a business that was making $2 million in revenue, and I could have sold it then before it was making $100,000 in revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Most times it's too late, and a lot of people try stay on. They come and they see me and they don't like the price and they say, I'll just carry on for another year and get it up. But more often than not, it ends up going down because, when they're at that point, they've mentally already sold. Yeah. I always say you've sold before you've sold.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Laura, what are the common differences you find between the business owner's interpretation of value and your reality?
I think the biggest one is they really think that the value is based on sales. They really, if they get an idea of what their business is worth, they think if they're doing $1 million in sales, then that's what they can sell their business for $1 million. And it's amazing how many times I've seen a business owner in their head price their business for what their revenues are. And they don't take into account that, that's someone buying it wants to know what they're left with. What profit am I buying? They want to buy the profit, and there's a multiple. And the standard average is 2.5. Obviously, a really good, biggish manufacturing company with millions in sales is a higher multiple. But a small business doing 100,000 will have a 1 multiple. So if they're making 20,000 profit, then the business is worth 20,000. Obviously, the bigger the businesses get, then that multiple changes. But rule of thumb across the board is probably about a 2.5. And the buyer's first question is not how much sales there are, there's what's the profit, what's the cash flow. When all the expenses are paid and I've paid the staff and paid everything I need to pay, what's left? That's what they're looking at. And so there's a big disconnect between the revenue and the cash flow.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Laura. And congratulations on your citizenship. You're a welcome addition to this country.
Thank you.